Hello, good afternoon, good morning, good evening from wherever you joining us today. My name is Felipe Monteiro. I'm professor of strategy here at INSEAD. And today we are together to talk about a fascinating case I wrote recently on Infosys and basically what Infosys has been doing in terms of partnerships in sports, more specifically in tennis. I have kind of Naveen Ramahan joining us, and I'll introduce him in a second. But before we start talking about that case, let me maybe go through some webinar etiquette. So as you probably noticed, you muted, the videos are off, and the chat is closed, but the Q&A is open. So throughout this whole session, feel free to ask questions, put comments there. And as you're probably familiar as well, right, you can upvote and click so we see which are the questions that resonate with most of you. This webinar is being recorded, so later on there are many more people who like to watch this conversation, and it's going to be available. And if you face any technical difficulties during the webinar, please feel free to send an email to digital@insead.edu. So these are the kind of some kind of housekeeping messages. Let me move forward and introduce you our guest today. So Naveen, please join us. Uh, Delighted to have you again at INSEAD, Naveen, this time online.
Thank you, Professor Philip. It's always a pleasure to speak with you and share our love for the game of tennis and share what we are doing from a technology perspective for this sport with your students and with your alumni. So it's always a pleasure.
Thank you, Naveen. And Naveen, he heads the global marketing and partnerships and sponsorships globally for Infosys. He's based in London, where he's calling today. And he's gonna share right firsthand experience in this fascinating journey of Infosys in tennis. But before we go there, let me maybe tell you a little bit about the story of this case. Actually, there are two cases. So this picture that you have in front of you, and you have the QR code there if you want to access the case digitally. I think what really motivated me to write this case was this idea of how sports organizations, how they are, what type of relationships they build with different companies around the world. Because I think a lot of us will be familiar with, you go to any tennis tournament or football match and you see a lot of brands there. The other thing is to see, what's the nature of that relationship. It's just as I love you saying, and I think that you don't want to just do brand slapping, right? So it's not about brand slapping. There's something else behind it. And I think a number of us would have seen emphasis at Roland Garros or ATP. But I think what is interesting, I think what this case describes is what goes beyond that, right? What goes beyond the brand that you see there. But what are the digital innovations, the technological solutions that Infosys partnered with those tennis organizations and provide them with? So this first case, it was written with a brilliant MBA student, and we describe this. And I think if we move to the next slide, we'll see you know, they have two ambassadors in Infosys has two ambassadors. I'm sure those of you who like tennis, you would know who they are. Maybe you would be big fans of this lady and this gentleman. And I think the quote you have from Rafa Nadal at the bottom of this slide, right, is just recognizing that is what Infosys is doing is more than having their brands there, but there's a lot of how they changing through technology the tennis experience for fans, for players, for the press, and for the media. So it's very interesting to get a better understanding of that. And we're gonna go there, and Naveen is gonna tell us how they doing that. Well, also, I would like to show you just a snapshot, and I think the next two slides will just show things that maybe some of you have seen it. Some of those tennis platforms and the things that they do and some of the solutions they are providing. So here you see, how you can create highlights of a match so quickly, right? It's all automated, and there's so much more going on in terms of AI. And maybe Naveen, later on, you can can share with us some of the very latest, and I think your colleague Dhruv Kanal was telling us. And here, there is also another way of seeing the solutions you see on the top, right, powered by Infosys. But you see here point by point, what is happening at each moment with a lot of more information. And I think it's interesting, right, because it is not only what is the information there, right? What's the data? But what do you do with that data? How do you represent it? How do you make it useful? How do you make it kind of visually attractive? How do you make it, in a way, things that were always there? It is just how do you treat it, and you make this something useful for players and fans and everyone involved. Um, the other angle that I would like to share with you is, I mean, I wrote not only this main case about the tennis partnership, but there was one specific angle that got a lot of interest with my students. Was one of the initiatives, which is the Infosys uh, carbon tracker. I mean, probably a number of you would know this, but a lot of the carbon footprint of a tennis tournament is all related to logistics, right? And it's people flying, right? Players coming and flying, and what is, how those things are organized. And if you can have a better idea, if you can provide a little bit more transparency of how your choices in terms of how you fly there and how you work with the logistics of all your equipment and staff, etc., etc. What is the implication of that in terms of carbon footprint? This could change behavior. So it's super interesting, right? And that's a lot of, not only in tennis, but a number of settings, just showing how when people are aware of their carbon imprint and how much they can change, right? They change their behavior on that. I think one feature that I found specifically interesting about this initiative was that when tennis players change their behavior and they follow this, they get, right, a green tick in their HP ranking. So somehow, right, there's also some recognition, public recognition of what they're doing. So this BKs, which is a shorter one, and you have the QR code there as well, um, really kind of focus on that specific initiative about the carbon tracker. I think the next slide does show is one of the ways that you can see it. I think here you have, the Dominic Thiem from Austria, and you see there, right, the carbon tracker ranking, and how much he offset, how many tournaments he played, how many kilometers he traveled, so on and so forth. So I think this is just maybe to entice your appetite and make it kind of more visual what they're doing. But now I think we can stop sharing slides, and I would like, Naveen, if we could start just with kind of getting some perspective on this, right? Because now we look, 2025, 10 years after you start this tennis partnership, right? And you see the outcome. But I think if we could go back to 2015, can you walk us through, the rationale? How did you choose tennis? How were those conversations? Uh, please.
Yeah. No, thank you, Professor Philip. I think echo a lot of things that you've shown. It has been an interesting journey, and 10 years is a long time. But for us, 10 years went like a flash in some sense. Just to give you a bit of a context to the students around who we are. So Infosys is an IT consulting and services organization which was established in 1981 with just $250 and 7 founders. Infosys is considered probably one of the first startups coming out of India. Today, there are 150,000 startups in India, in some sense. So, yeah, and today, Infosys is a large organization. We are close to about $75 billion in market cap, $19 billion in revenue. We have 330,000 employees across 56 countries. So we've come a long way in terms of our humble beginnings of starting with $250. Uh, but first, for the first 30 years of our existence, we had been a very, very conservative brand. We had been a brand which was very focused on going after one target audience, which was the CIO of the organization, which is the technology head of the organization. And that is how we had built our business slowly in terms of In some sense, it was more direct marketing. We would go after one individual, that department, uh, look at what is the kind of technology solutions that we can provide. And that was really the focus of the business and our sales team at that point in time. But something strange started happening in the year 2010. Is we realized that the decision making within large organizations was suddenly getting dispersed across the entire enterprise. It was not just the CIO of the organization that was taking a decision on technology investment. It was the different departments, whether it was the CHRO for HR, whether it was the CMO for marketing, whether it was the business head of different departments, who had a bigger say in terms of technology decisions. And we suddenly realized that if that is the case, then Infosys cannot be not visible, and cannot play a role where nobody else in the organization knows about Infosys apart from the CIO. So it was important for us to become a lot more visible globally. And at that point in time, we looked at what could be a strategy for us to become visible. And sports was a platform that was chosen as something that we should look at to become more visible, become make sure that everyone is aware about Infosys in some sense. So that was probably the start of how we started thinking about why we needed to be visible, because it was a business decision at that point in time. Our CEO at that point in time had come from SAP, which was an organization which believed a lot in being visible, using sports as a platform. So he gave us the initial idea of really looking at sports as something that we should explore. Uh, and we looked at a lot of things at that point in time. We looked at Formula One. We looked at football. We looked at cycling. Our CEO was a fan of sailing, so we also looked at sailing, though we had no idea about that sport at all. But we still looked at it. We looked at cricket because, as Indians, we have grown up watching cricket and playing cricket. So cricket was another thing as a sport that we were pushed to explore. So we evaluated a lot of these sports, looking into details, but we landed on tennis ultimately because of very strategic reasons. And I'll talk about what were those strategic reasons as to why we selected tennis. One of the reasons really was that tennis is a global sport. It is the fourth most popular sport in the world. It is watched by 1 billion people all over the world. And it is played in markets that are important for Infosys, played and watched in markets that are important for Infosys. It is played in Americas, it is played in Europe, it is played in Australia. And these are the biggest markets from a business perspective for Infosys. So we wanted a sport that is played and watched across the globe. So that was one of the reasons. The second reason was also that the demographic of the people who watch and play tennis matched with the target audience that Infosys goes after. So it is the mid to senior level audience that really looks at, who watches tennis, who enjoys tennis. So there was a very strong match between our target audience and the audience of tennis itself. Third, it is also a diverse sport. We were very clear right from the beginning. The value systems of Infosys and the cultural alignment of Infosys with the sport had to be the number one criteria that we would look at. So we didn't want a male-only sport. We wanted a sport that was played and watched by both men and women. And tennis is probably one of the few sports where you have a very good concentration of both the genders. So that was important for us, and that was one of the good reasons that we selected thing. I think the other reason was also the fact that, and probably something that clinched it for us, was really the role of technology itself. Uh, I think there was a lot of tech that was happening in the sport. There was a lot of potential for tech in the sport. There was a lot of data that we could get from different tournaments and which could be used to really create interesting solutions. So for us, it was important to get integrated into a sport to add value to the sport. So we didn't want to, like you mentioned earlier, we didn't want to just slap our brand. it was important to make a difference to the sport of tennis. It was important to make a difference to all the stakeholders of that sport. So that's how the journey started, when we found an opportunity where ATP, which is the Association of Tennis Players, they came to us with a business problem around how do we help them from a technology perspective. That really clinched it for us. We said, yes, this is exactly what we wanted, in terms of the sport was working for us, and there was a credible technology project that we could really add value. So that's how we started, and it's been 10 years of no looking back. We've evolved from a small tournament, which was the ATP finals in London in 2014, 2015, to now we are present across Roland Garros, present across Australian Open. We are there in Tennis Hall of Fame in Newport. We recently signed up a Queen's tournament in London, and we participate across the globe. And again, tennis is another sport which is played from right through the year. It starts in January, it ends in November. So it's not a 2 month activation. It's an activation that we can do throughout the year. That was also one of the important reasons why tennis was so high in our list. So yeah, I can go on and on, Professor, but this is how we started, and it's been a wonderful journey of 10 years. We just completing 10 years now, and super excited by the impact that this has created for the brand as well as for the business.
Fascinating, Naveen, and I see as when we discuss this in class, I mean, people right really understand that logic. Not only how do you reach to a broader audience within, right, in terms of decision makers, but also this logic of how do you get a sports, right, that's played by a female and male, that is throughout the year, that is in the key markets, right? So in terms of geographical expansion and penetration markets, which are clear to you. I mean, I always get questions, and I know David has already put one question in the Q&A, which is, okay, tennis. I mean, why not? No, David asked, why not squash? Why not paddle? So, how do you see those? I mean, those expansions to sports which are very close to tennis?
Yeah, I know. I think for us, it's important to look at a sport that covers all the dimensions that I spoke about. It is important that it is a popular sport. It is watched by the kind of scale that we are really talking about. I play squash. Actually, I don't play. I don't play tennis. I'm a squash player. I love the sport, but unfortunately, squash is not as popular as tennis in terms of the visibility in the core markets that Infosys is present in. Is It's popular in certain markets, but it's not popular globally, and that's the kind of thing that we really need. It needs to give us the momentum that the sport already has. You could ask the question that why not golf, or why not Formula One, which are equally much bigger global sports. But we also have to look at it from a competitive perspective. Accenture, which is a competition of ours, was present already in golf in a big way. A lot of our other competitors are already present in Formula One, in some sense. So we also look at some of the other parameters that are important for us in terms of how do we really decide on one sport. IBM was present even now in tennis in a big way. They do Wimbledon, they do US Open, where we are not present. But I think tennis had that gap where we could actually get in and really expand our things. And we are together along with IBM. We are now probably the two tech players who are very, very active in the sport of tennis. So it's not a very crowded space in some sense. If you go to football, there are hundreds of brands which are already present, so your brand can get lost. But tennis is one sport where one, you're present with really big brands and very prestigious brands. We look at some of the top banks are present. Emirates is present. So you are also in the company of some exclusive brands like Rolex, which has been in the sport for, I don't know, probably 50, 60 years that they have been present. So I think it was also important to be perceived along with the right kind of brands.
And I can also imagine, right, those emotional moments. And as you were speaking, I was remembering, right, that image of Nadal kind of after winning, kind of there, and then having Infosys at the back. What is the benefit of that in terms of people associating Infosys also with those kind of very very important moments in sports. I think for those of us who are more familiar with it, we talk about technology, tennis, and this. I mean, help us and help the people watching us today to materialize this. What type of technological solutions do you offer, right? For fans, for the players. Can you give some illustrations so it becomes more tangible?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things that we do is we work across the four key stakeholders of the game. So one is fans, second is players and coaches, third is tournament organizers, and fourth is the media organization. So these are, if you ask me broadly, the four big stakeholder groups of tennis. So we do a lot of work which are related to fan engagement. And if you see some of the work that we have created, so one of the products that we launched way back in about 7 years back was a solution called Match Center, which is now present in the ATP website. It is live across the entire year for all the 60 tournaments. Anytime point is played anywhere in the world, that stat center, which is the match center, gets updated within minutes of a point being played anywhere in the world. So the data is connected in some sense. So we built this match center, which has very advanced analytics and stats. So you can really go deeply and understand what happened in the game, what happened in the match. You can, like you showed, we have created something called as match beats, where you can visually understand how the game is progressing. And we've had fans actually calling us and telling us that where the TV broadcast of the match was not available, they were actually able to understand and visualize how the game was progressing just by watching match beats. So that's one of the features that we have done. We have something called as court vision, which is looking at a 3D visualization of how a point has been played. So you can actually look at a point from multiple dimensions, look at it from multiple angles. You can see the height of the ball, at what angle and height was the serve played. So you can see the trajectory of the ball. So you can go as deep as possible. There is something called as rally analysis. There is stroke analysis. And these are features that we have built over a period of time, depending on the demands coming from players, depending on the demands coming from coaches. We thought, okay, these are important features that needs to get added. So this is something that we have created for fans. There are close to about 400 million people who have actually gone to the match center over this period to really explore, and it is a place for tennis fanatics in some sense, people who really are deep into analytics, who are deep into tennis as a game, and they can really get value out of something like this. And like that, we have created a lot of things for fans. So that's the first category. The second is really around players and coaches, and for that, we've created something called as the AI video analytics portal, which is exclusively available for players and coaches only. So you have a username and password to really sign into this platform. And this platform has video analytics for all the games that are available for. So if I take a tournament like Roland Garros, it has video analytics for the past 10 years into that portal. So you can actually go and ask a question related to your match versus any other player that you have played, and get video highlights of that match instantly. You can actually give it a prompt which will talk about, okay, I need to only see aces that I have played across the last 5 years, or I want to see only forehand winners, or I want to see only where I have lost the lost the point. So you can go as minute a question and as micro a question and get a video playlist instantly created so that you can go for it. And this came from an insight when we spoke to a top ranked player and asked, how do you really look at your game and how do you analyze your game? And he said he would go to YouTube after the match was over, and he would actually see the recorded version of the match, and then would hit pause and play and keep checking in terms of what are the areas that needs to be improved. Now you can put improvement parameters into this portal and get exactly the exact point, the exact ideas in terms of how you can improve, get tactics. So the coaches love these things. We've had close to about 4,000 coaches and players who have gone to this portal and really go deeper into understanding their game better. And so it's a great platform for player performance improvement and really deep analysis of what worked, what did not work, and what can be improved. And the good part it is democratized. So if you look at players like Djokovic and some of the top players, they already have analytics people who help them with their game, and they can afford it. But it's you go beyond the top 50 players, it is a very, very expensive sport. People don't have access to all of these things available. We are making it democratic to every player that is out there. So the 2000 ranked player gets the same data and gets the same insight like the top 5 ranked players in tennis. So that's the beauty of this platform. It democratizes learning and understanding the sport, and getting access to advanced data like no other sport can give them. So that's the second, which is really around players. We've also created something for the media, which is around creating an AI journalism tool, which helps any journalist to get insights and an infographic and tools to really write an article instantly after the match is over, or while the match is going on. You get insights related to the thing, so you can use this tool as your AI companion to write. You obviously can get the entire thing written by AI, but then every journalist has the option to then change it to the tone of voice that he or she actually prefers. So you can then rewrite it in your tone. But there is a tool that is available that helps you to get all the insights, all the momentum shifts that have happened instantly as the game progresses. And this, from a productivity perspective, journalists love this tool. Again, something that we have launched a few years back, and it's running very successfully. And for the tournament organizers, like you mentioned, we have things like the ATP Carbon Tracker. It was a brief that came from the ATP to us in terms of they wanted to do something on the sustainability side, and we jointly worked with them to develop something like this. We worked with Australian Open during the COVID period. They wanted to create a VIP experience, a virtual VIP experience for their VIP partners. And we built something called as a virtual hub for them, where you could have a master chef coming and talking. You could have getting to watch getting to watch a 360 degree of the match in a very exclusive environment. So we've done a lot of things depending on the needs and demands of each of these different stakeholders. But yeah, and all of these features, so we've created something called as the Infosys Tennis Platform. And we have a dedicated team now, which works 365 days a year, only on tennis. And now it has expanded to beyond tennis, also into other sports. And it is built in a platform model. So you can keep adding features to it. It can scale up or down. It looks at other sports, gets ideas, and people are really. And the interesting thing, Professor, is that when we started, we had a bunch of tech nerds who were working on the project. They had no idea about tennis. They did not know how the game was played, and we had ATP analysts working along with them to teach them tennis. And now the team that we have in tennis platform team, they understand tennis very well. They are masters of the game. They can predict points even before the points is played, because they have all the data, and they play around with it quite a bit. So it's been a fabulous and interesting journey of doing these kind of tennis innovation. There are close to about 30 new innovations that we have done from the tennis platform team now.
Wow. Uh, Naveen, let me maybe ask you some questions which are popping up in our Q&A box. So I think Danilo is asking in terms of the sources of the data, video, camera, any other sensors, manual inputs.
Yeah, so we get input from 3 4 sources. One is the chair umpire. The chair umpire, so you will have the umpire which sits and uh, dishes out the point, whether it's 15 love or 30 love or this thing. So the chair umpire data is one source of data that we get. We get Hawkeye data, which is the cameras that are all around the thing. So we get the Hawkeye data, which gives us deep analysis of the spin, the angle, the speed of the serve, and all of those data points. And then there are tournament related information that is available, that we get for tournament related analytics that we need to produce. So there are multiple such sources that are available for us to really work on.
And I think there's also a question about, were you involved with automated line calling?
No, we have not been involved. That is something that the tournament does on their own, actually.
Okay. And I think there's another question here, which is more about data security. So Uriel is asking, he's saying, I imagine all those tools are dealing with very sensitive data, complicated access governance. Anything that you could share about that?
Yeah, I think the platform and the tools that we use comes with sufficient guardrails around protection. So the entire cloud server platform that we use for this, we use AWS for storing the data. So it comes with inbuilt guardrails around data protection. And these are very important. I think these are probably the first steps that we take for any project that we do in order to build the right kind of guardrails around any project. So yeah, data security is an absolutely important thing. And there is data security that happens also at the tournament side in terms of how they store the data, how the data is retrieved, and also the platform that we use comes with its own data guardrails.
Wonderful. So I think, and I've seen you and Dhruv talking about this many times. It is this, those, how do you find out and how do you work with your partners to really work on those innovation projects that can be really transformational, right? Because it is easy they can give you, okay, can you just optimize a little thing here, right? And cost saving, I don't know. How do you, what are the parameters? Yes, this is really something transformational versus this is just more business as usual.
Yeah, I think that's a great question, Professor. It has always been our endeavor to keep a very strict guideline around how we select projects that we end up doing. Because, like you rightly mentioned, it can go into a direction where we end up doing very back end kind of work all the time. And it's not that that's not important, but how do you ensure that you protect the money and the talent that you have to do interesting projects that can add value to the business of these tournament organizers and these large players who run some of these biggest grand slams and tennis tournaments. So the first thing that we do is to really look at it from the perspective of uh, what is the strategy of the partner, what is really their goal in terms of what do they want to achieve out of uh, leveraging a technology player like us. So I think it's important for us to understand their long term vision. It is important for us to understand what is it that you're really trying to achieve. So and
Mhm.
it's not, we don't want to do innovation for the sake of innovation. There has to be a purpose behind the innovation that we do. So it's important for us to understand what are the goals that they're trying to achieve. So just to give you an example, right after Roland Garros gets over, within a month's time, we have a detailed workshop with their technology teams. We jointly sit together with them to really plan out what are some of the key projects that we will start looking at exploring for the next year. Uh, in some of the players, it's a long-term game, so we look at a three-year plan in terms of what are some of the key projects that we will work on. In fact, with the ATP, we are thinking about a 5 to 7 year plan in terms of their entire technology roadmap. So the first is to really align yourself in terms of looking at what are the partners' goals and strategic direction that we need to do. The second way we look at innovation is both from a, so we call it the dual speed innovation model in some sense. So we look at incremental innovation in terms of, okay, we've created Math Center. How do we keep adding new features and benefits into that thing? You've done virtual reality gear. Now, how do I add new features into what we have already created? So it's the model is around incremental innovation. And then there are transformational innovation stuff, which are some things which are completely new, which we haven't done before, which we have probably got as an idea from another sport where something has been really working but it's never been done in tennis. So how do you look at something like that? So we look at both incremental innovation as well as transformational innovation. The third is around co-creating with our partners. Now, they partners would come back and say that, hey, here is a business problem that we have, and that's exactly how it happened for the ATP Carbon Tracker, where they came to us with a business problem that we want to really. ATP has a net zero target around the sustainability goals of 2040. And one of the things, and their biggest 97% of their emissions are really happening through travel. So what can we do to change behavior, create something which will help players to look at how they travel, what are the ways that we can make them understand, how can we offset some of these travels. And if you look at what has been achieved with ATP Carbon Tracker, and I can talk about some of the stats, now close to about 300 players are using the ATP Carbon Tracker. Just it's been just 2 3 years that we have initiated this program. There are close to about 15 million kilometers that has been tracked thing. There are 750 odd flights that have been offset. There are close to about 22,000 carbon offset that has happened using this program. Some of the top players like Cameron Norrie, Ben Shelton, they're actively involved in something like this. So it is changing the narrative within players that, hey, we have to really uh, do something about a player this thing. And like, I would think that most players use charter planes, and they would fly business class and they would fly first class, but that's not what the data is telling us. A lot of them are very, very conscious about how they travel. In fact, a lot of them use bus transportation, train transportation, to actually travel from one tournament to another tournament. So it's very heartening to see, and I think we've put in a program where they also get these green tags, and we are trying to see who's the most sustainable player in the world, and that's changing the narrative. And hopefully, it's going into a direction where we can get the right kind of impact. So, co-creating innovation along with our partners is an important thing. And the other thing is, I think when we are thinking about innovations, we have to also understand that tennis is a legacy game. In some sense, it has a lot of uh, historic stories to it. uh, you cannot Technology has to make tennis a lot more human. It cannot move against that. So how do we make sure that the technology in some sense appreciates the legacy, respects the legacy of the game, respects the tradition of the game, and is almost making it a lot more human. So that's really been our endeavor in terms of how we select and how we partner with our partners in something like this.
I think, Naveen, before we move to, I mean, people are interested about the business model, right? To understand the outcomes, how do you measure, what is success, all those things. Let me just go to a question that Marcus is asking here. And it's not about Infosys because he's referring to the highlights at Wimbledon, which is not you. And he said, no, the quality of the highlights that have been done by AI, no, he thinks that it was not as good as humans. Um, Anything, I'm sure you don't want to talk about what IBM is doing at Wimbledon, but I think when you look at what Roland Garros, the AI generated highlights, I mean, how do you make sure this is as good, if not better, than the humans?
So I think the the challenge that we have is there are multiple ways of doing it. There are ways in which you can create highlights which is completely automated. There are ways in which you can create highlights where there is a human in the loop. So we have experts who signs off on, yes, this is important, and this is how we'll stitch it together. Earlier, everything was done by humans in terms of something. Now we are reaching a stage where 90% of the stuff is really done by machines, and the 10% of making sure that it has that extra edge and it has that I don't know, sophistication, or it has that naturalness in terms of really making sure that it'll get appreciated by fans, which only probably a fan would know, or an expert who's been doing it for years and years would really know. So we have both the models in terms of making it completely automated or making it with the human in the loop, and these are machines which constantly learn. So if a human teaches it that this works better, the next time it has automatically understood that this is what makes it better, and it'll automatically learn that and provide something similar the next time it creates. So I think the systems are learning. These are intelligent systems that they continue to learn and continue to get better. I think when we started off, we had very poor quality of highlights that were coming in, but now you can't make out whether it is done completely automated or whether there has been a human in the loop or how much human involvement has happened. And I personally feel that after a few years, it will be very difficult for anybody to distinguish between these two models. But we still feel that uh, means AI can only illuminate the game in some sense. I think we don't want it to interfere with the game of tennis too much, and that's really important. I'll give you a very interesting example of what had happened. This was the 2022 Australian Open Finals between Rafa Nadal and Medvedev. It was probably one of the most interesting matches that I have seen. And you had Rafa losing by 2 sets and almost match point, and then Rafa comes back and wins. Our Infosys AI predictor was giving less than 4% chance for Rafa to win, but Rafa came back and won that whole thing. That the human spirit was still alive, and you would have seen it in the Roland Garros finals recently between Sinner versus Alcaraz. Alcaraz was down 3 championship points, and he came back and won that game. And no AI predictor would have actually predicted that he would come back and win that game. So I think we have to have the right balance of where human intervention is required and where machines can actually run the things. But I think it's really about working together and how machines can amplify human potential in some sense.
Fascinating. So let's talk about business. We are kind of good. This is more than putting your brands there, and this is more than brand slapping. How do you measure success? How do you know, right? What's the value creation for Infosys? How do you know this is working or not?
Yeah, I think it's a great question, Professor, and I don't think we would have got the support of business if it was not adding value. I think business is very clear. They will only fund initiatives where they see ROI, where they see value coming out of it. And having done this for 10 years, I know for a fact that tomorrow, if I want to really pick up a new tournament, I really don't have to create a new business case for it. I have the license and I have the approval to actually go ahead and do that because of the value that has been created. So firstly, I think Infosys, if you look at it, we are now in the top 100 brands globally. That was not the case about a decade back, and not certainly even 5 years back. We are one amongst the top 100 brands now. We are, in the last 5 years, we are the fastest growing IT services brand. We are probably, if you look at all the brand study that we have done, we are a way more visible in terms of our presence globally now. And we believe tennis had a big role to play in that whole thing. In the 10-year journey that we've had in tennis, had a big role to play in terms of changing the perception of Infosys from being a technology service provider to a digital innovation partner in some sense. So a big shift in terms of perception. So to give you a metric, we measure brand metrics like top of mind recall, aided awareness, unaided awareness, and we do these brand audit surveys on a biannual basis to see where how we are improving. And we get data from each of these tournaments in terms of visibility, in terms of impressions. So multiple parameters we look at to look at how the brand is getting impacted by what we do. Using tennis as a vehicle and even all the other sports partnerships that we have. So there is a very scientific way of really going back with data to show what is the impact it's having on the brand side. The second is the business impact side, in terms of how much value and how much addition that you're doing to the revenue growth side of the business. And I can tell you for a fact that the amount of money that we put in sponsorship and the kind of value that we get on deals and pipeline increase and new logos that we have generated, it's in multi-million dollars of for this thing. So business is clearly seeing the impact on revenue side with the investment that we are making in tennis, and it's a direct correlation. It's like where tennis case study is the number one case study that our data and analytics team goes whenever they go and pitch to a new business, whether it's to manufacturing, whether it's to retail, whether it's to financial services. The tennis case study is taken as the number one case study to really explain about how we can help you with your data and your analytics story. Now it is increasingly becoming, even for AI case studies, the work that we have done with AI commentary is being shown to show how agentic, a multi-agentic AI framework works, because it's very easy for them to explain, showing a tennis example that this is how we have done it in tennis and this is how we can do it in your business. So there is direct correlation in terms of business being generated as well as influenced using tennis as a means. So we are seeing the numbers growing in terms of the business impact. The third is client relationship, and right now I think the most important thing that brands are really after is to really build trust and relationship with their clients. With all things happening around the world right now, most brands are looking to create platforms that can increase trust and build relationships better. And tennis over the last 10 years has really helped us to create very deep relationship with our clients. We invite a lot of these clients to tennis tournaments, and the kind of conversation that happens over tennis, over an informal atmosphere, cannot be matched by something that you will do in a business meeting. It is completely different. It is a lot more human. It is something that really creates bonds for years. And I know I've been to a lot of tournaments where I've met clients, and we keep meeting them in different tournaments where we invite them, and the relationship is at a completely different level. So deepening of relationships has really helped. And if you look at Infosys, 95% of our business comes from existing clients. We don't really go after new prospects and new clients as much, because our existing clients continue to give us more business year after year. So 95% of Infosys revenues comes from existing clients. So it is important for us to really deepen our relationship with our existing clients, and tennis helps us do that. Yeah, and I think if you look at employee parameters, employees are proud to see the brand being showcased like this. So when it comes to really employee motivation, people are really glad when I don't know whether when you have flown last through Heathrow, if you come out of the immigration in Heathrow, you will see the Infosys brand right in front of you with our tennis brand ambassadors. And it's an absolutely proud feeling for any employee who walks through the airport and sees their brand on hoardings and others, and to talk about something like this. The impact that we've made on the community side, we do a lot of work on grassroots tennis. How do we really teach tennis to underprivileged school children? We work with uh, Yannick Noah's association called Fête Lemor in France, where we get students from disadvantaged socioeconomic backgrounds and teach them about tennis and technology, the science part of it, like how do you do STEM education. And we have a platform called Springboard, through which we teach them about maths, science, technology using tennis examples. And there are modules of these created in our Springboard platform, which are available free of cost to these students. So we do a lot of things on the community side of stuff, also using our technology for grassroots tennis building. So in some sense, it's a holistic measurement of the impact that we are creating across all stakeholder group, whether it's the brand metrics, whether it's a business impact metrics, whether it's the community metrics that we really look at.
And one comment, and then I'll go to one question, which is in the chat. I think the comment, and I mean, as an observer, right? I mean, coincidentally, I have worked with other companies that and wrote case about other companies that also are in Roland Garros, for example. But I think the difference for you, right, when I go and I see what you do with right with the CEOs that come to those tournaments, is it's not only that they see you there, but right, they see your technology in action, right? Which is different, right? If I am, I don't know, BNP Paribas or higher or others, right? They see you there, it's beautiful, right? And they have this moment of sharing, but I think you can go one step further because I mean you're there, you're sharing, you have this level of intimacy, but also right, they can really witness your technology in practice. So I mean, Sudhir has a question for you, and the question is around what is the business model? Is this a SaaS model? And also, given that you are sponsoring, were these tech tools used as a subsidy for the sponsorship? What's the package deal, etc. So, from what is public that you can share, how those partnerships work?
Yeah, so I think we have a very unique model in terms of our sponsorship. I would call it more a partnership rather than sponsorship in some sense. I think, and our model is devised in such a way that we pay X amount of money from a sponsorship perspective, so that our brand is visible. Brand is visible in these large platforms that each of these tournaments provide. At the same time, we also work with these partners to ensure that they give us Y amount of money back on the technology projects that are important for them from their strategy perspective. So it's not free of cost. It is something that they pay for. It is something where we are adding value to their business. We are looking at what are some of their strategic growth areas and really bringing our technology teams to really work on projects. So it's a two-way relationship. So it's a model where uh, it's a model of partnership where we get a lot from what the partners can provide us. At the same time, they also get value of working with us. So it's a very unique model of partnership, and I think now this has become a bit more common, that people are looking at value in kind of partnerships in other sports also. But 10 years back when we started with this model. We were very clear that we didn't want to do brand slapping, which was very easily available. Even now, a lot of partnerships don't follow the model that we are doing. In fact, very few follow the model that we are following. But we are very clear that we will not enter into any partnership where we are not authentically integrated and adding value to that partnership.
I think let's move to a topic that we talked briefly before, but it's more about sustainability and social impact. And I know, you are the head of kind of global partnerships, and I know we have done fascinating work in that field, right? And that's, I mean, I think with economists and others. So there's a lot that you do in terms of sustainability. But let's talk about the carbon tracker and also what is not in the case, right? So for people watching us, what is not there is what you did after. And one of the things that you did after was also the partnership with Formula E. So can you say a little bit more about that partnership and also this idea of the importance of sustainability? I know it's a core value for Infosys.
Yeah, I think so. We are probably Infosys is one of the few organizations that has an ESR charter that really believes in sustainability at its core, from its core value perspective. We are one of the organizations that became carbon neutral in 2020. So 30 years ahead of the Paris Agreement thing target that was there. So it is ingrained in some sense in how we do business for us. One of the digital inclusion platforms that I spoke about, Springboard, uh, it really is now on the way to have 20 million people digitally skilled. It's a completely free platform that is available there. So sustainability, in some sense, and when I say sustainability, it's not just environmental sustainability, it is social sustainability, it is governance that we do on the ethical side of business. So it covers all of these things, and along with our business annual report that comes out, which looks at profit and loss and other business parameters, we have in sustainability report that also comes out every year along with our annual report. So it's very important for us, and that was one of the reasons why when we got the carbon tracker project, it was close to our heart. So I think it was important for us to do the project. The kind of impact that it has made has really helped us, and and with that, we've also done other partnerships using sustainability as a metric, as a foundational thing. We had a partnership with a media organization called The Economist, where we built their entire sustainability platform. So one of the problem statements that they came to us with was that we have a lot of our readers who are interested in the sustainability topic, but it is spread across the entire ecosystem of the Economist group. How do we bring it all together into a single space? So we built something called as the sustainability project, which was bringing all content of Economist into a single space. Next year, we did another project with them, which was called the Value Chain Navigator, which was looking at
Mm.
the scope 3 emissions of organizations, and how do you look at formats and templates of how to go about their scope 3 emission journey, and get examples from other organizations. And we did a research with 1,200 organizations globally to understand how they look at scope 3. Last year we did another project called the Sustainability Atlas, which is really looking at the 16 indices that Economist produces every year. How do we use an AI tool to answer any question related to sustainability that is coming from each of these 16 indices, and also the interplay between the health index and a climate index and a food index. So these are large Excel reports that used to come out. Now we have created a small platform, a toolkit, through which you can ask it any question and you get the response, and you get interplay responses also. So a lot of things from a sustainability perspective is now going in the direction where technology can actually help you or to give answers. And on the same lines, when we got this opportunity with Formula E, which is the electric sports, we latched on to that. And that is, it's been 1 year now that partnership has been on for us. Again, very similar model like what we have with tennis, which is On the sponsorship side, we get a visibility. We are able to host clients in Formula E events globally, and we are also able to do a lot of projects on the technology side of things. So we are actually building a racing insight center, which is exactly like the math center equivalent, using the same technology framework and platform, but using the parameters of Formula E in some sense, and really providing insights about driver insight, racing insights. How do you compare between one race and another race, and giving out what is the story of Formula E? How do you make people aware about the story of Formula E using stats as a thing? So I think sustainability as a topic is important for us, and we will continue to look for projects where we can add value using technology.
I think I see that we are running out of time. So let me ask you the two final questions, one about the past and one about the future. The one about the past, it is, Hanesh Patel, who is the president of the INSEAD Sports Club. I mean, his question for you was, what has been your most proud or memorable experience across the evolution of the tennis partnership? So, looking back 10 years, what is, this is what the most memorable. And my question about the future is, can you imagine kind of 5 years from now, we do another of those, right? We have the Infosys KC. What's going to be the story you're going to be telling?
Okay, I think the first one is a lot easier. I think for me, the most memorable part of our tennis journey has been able to sign on Rafa Nadal as our brand ambassador. Uh, I couldn't have asked for anything better. I'm a big fan of Rafa over the years. And the fact that we were in a position to even think about something like this, let alone doing sponsorship deals, or to have a brand ambassador who's a tennis brand ambassador for a technology company like Infosys. Uh, and the reason why we chose Rafa was also very, very unique. Rafa stands for everything that you would want in a sport, in your life, in some sense. The humility which he comes with, the passion that he has, the hard work that he puts in, it aligned very well with the values of our own organization. So, for us to present Rafa as a credible case of being a brand ambassador was very, very easy. I don't know about whether you know about this fact that Rafa is probably the only person in tennis history who has never smashed his racket and broken his racket ever,
No.
either before playing or later. Means you can see a lot of young players now smashing their rackets when they get angry, but the respect that he had towards the sport and towards the tools of his sport is something that is very valuable. So for me, it was a special moment to sign someone like Rafa to be the brand ambassador. And having met him, and having he spoke at our annual sales conference just about a month back. He was there with us in Orlando, and he was a keynote speaker. And just to see him imbibe the values of what Infosys stands for was special for me. And I think that probably is the most memorable things. Apart from all the innovations and other things that we have done in the sport, I think getting him as the brand ambassador was something very unique and special. Yeah, and on your question about the future, I think it will be something related to AI, is my guess, because I think our next 2 to 5 years, I think the focus of the organization is around how do we ride the wave of AI. I think AI is going to disrupt every industry. Our own My own function of marketing is getting completely disrupted by marketing by AI. And we've seen the impact that it has. So we're looking at multiple metrics around how do we look at AI from a productivity angle, how do we look at it uh, from a engagement angle, how do we look at it from a efficiency angle, how do we look at it from an experience angle. So we are also looking at learning around what all things that we can do using AI. So one of the things that I would say that we will definitely have a case study which will be around AI.
Thank you, Naveen. I think we may have lost your video now. You're back.
Yeah.
So I mean, first of all, let me thank you so much for sharing, this, you know, this journey, right? This is a journey, right? You're not talking about what's happening now, but you're talking about, how you started, where you are now, what you're most proud of, right? And then speculating about, and I cannot agree more. For those of you interested, what's the space, right? Our next case will be Infosys AI and in those partnerships. Just before we leave, I'd like just to project again the slides because I would like to invite those of you interested. Naveen and I, we recorded a series of video interviews for the INSEAD Learning Hub. So if you, and you see there the QR code, if you're interested, you will see a number of the things we discussed today and other angles in this series of videos. So you can access through the Inside Learning Hub. Uh, Also, if you are interested in reading the cases, I think you have access to them, and I really look forward to keep in touch. Naveen, thank you once more. I look forward to welcoming you back on campus, and congratulations on those 10 years of success in those partnerships. And for those of you who were here with us today, thank you so much, and looking forward to the next talks. Thank you all.
Thank you, Professor. Pleasure speaking to you.
Bye.